you imagine what a tropical island would look like and what it would feel like, Kauai is exactly that. It's a pretty amazing place.
The wedding between Lori and Chad Daybell was in Kauai.
That's right.
Were you invited?
No, I don't think anybody was there except for the two of them and whoever performed the services.
The photos are great, but the one thing you notice about them is it's only the bride and groom.
7-year-old son JJ is not there. Neither is 16-year-old daughter Tylee. Not at the wedding, not in Hawaii, not staying with friends or family.
JJ, say hi.
Cops are looking high and low, but they can't find him anywhere. And yet, the wedding goes on.
The story and what's happening at this wedding is incredibly dark.
The urgent search for those missing Idaho siblings. Officials say the kids have not been seen since September.
Good morning, Tom. This is really a mysterious one.
The story goes national. Number one, because nobody's seen these kids in weeks. What really drives this story is that the mom is completely silent, which bothers people.
It's very bizarre.
Why wouldn't you just tell people where they are? Why keep it secret?
Chad, Lori, can you tell me where your kids are? Would you tell me what happened to JJ? Can you tell me where Tylee is?
Just to see her utter disregard, for people's questions.
With Lori silent, we reached out to her family to see if they could shed any light on her behavior or the whereabouts of her kids. They agreed to sit down with us early on in the investigation. At the time, they painted a radically different picture than the one the public was seeing.
Thank you.
Well, I'm Janice Cox, and I'm Lori's mother. And I am very much appreciative of an opportunity to say what I know to be true about Lori. She's beautiful, she's sweet, she's kind, she's generous to a fault. Lori and Summer both took dance, and they both ended up being cheerleaders. They both love sports. They both played on the softball team that I coached, our church softball team, for 3 years. Lori was the pitcher and would never let me take her out. It was really sad. She became a hairstylist because she loves help making people look more beautiful. But the most important thing to me is the kind of mother she is, the way she dedicated herself to her children.
I realize that it looks bad, but I know Lori very well, and I know she would not harm her children or anyone's children.
I know Lori, and I know Lori's done everything she can to protect her kids.
When I first started talking to her, the first thing she said to me was, "Mom, you know me. You know I'm taking care of my kids."
So the way the family describes it, they describe this as a very close-knit unit, but there is something really weird. They weren't at the wedding because they didn't even know there was a wedding.
I don't think I knew that Lori married Chad Daybell until I saw it on TV.
To fully understand Lori, I think it helps to go back in time to see how her past relationships may have played a role in her current situation.
In the late 1980s, Lori's a high school cheerleader in Rialto, California. She's popular, she's smart, she comes from a devout Mormon family. In 1992, she marries her high school sweetheart.
He wasn't my favorite, and we didn't have a close relationship. She left home when she was 18, and we asked Lori to wait a year. But they just went off and decided to do their own thing and got married. And so we didn't go to the wedding.
There was soon a second marriage, and it's out of this marriage Lori's first child, Colby, is born.
We weren't in favor of him, even though he was Colby's father.
Hoping the third time is the charm, Lori marries again, this time to Joseph Ryan.
They caught people's attention because they were beautiful, they were magnanimous, they were both extroverts, they were, just kind of larger than life.
One reason Lori had wanted to get married was to have another baby. So she got pregnant with Tylee right away, and she was really excited about having Tylee.
It's during this time Lori makes an appearance on the game show Wheel of Fortune.
Gopher,
Doc, Isaac, and Captain Stubing.
And in that clip, Lori describes married life in glowing terms.
I have a wonderful husband, Joseph, at home, who is watching our two beautiful children, Colby, who's 7, and Tylee, who is 1.
Yeah, what do you guys like to do for fun?
We like to play all kinds of sports on our 3 acres.
Okay, sounds like you have a nice life there.
We do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And here they are, your contestants for Mrs. Texas 2004. Contestant number 4, Lori Ryan.
Lori does not lack for confidence. She was bold enough to get up on stage at a Texas beauty pageant.
She is Mrs. Hayes County. Her husband's name is Joseph. They've been married for 3.5 years, and they have 2 children.
In 2004, Lori was recruited to do the pageant, and she worked really hard to get in perfect shape.
I don't know really what prompted her to want to do the pageant, other than it gave her kind of an outlet.
And she thought that might help her marriage at the time. Lori does have stage presence. She's very poised. She did everything beautifully.
Tell us who you are. What makes you tick?
Being a good mom is very important to me, and a good wife, and a good worker, and being all those things together is not easy. So I'm basically a ticking time bomb.
Joseph Ryan appears to have been a bit of a ticking time bomb himself.
I did witness him be physically abusive toward Colby.
He was physically abusive from the very get-go.
Now that Wheel of Fortune clip we saw Lori in becomes a lot more interesting because we're able to see how she can portray this illusion of happiness even when her marriage is falling apart.
The marriage implodes under allegations that Joe Ryan abused both children. Those allegations were investigated but never substantiated. This custody battle drags on for years.
How you guys doing?
Enter Alex Cox, Lori's brother like no other.
I found out Christmas is wrong. Jesus was not born in Bethlehem. He was born in El Salvador.
Alex Cox has showbiz aspirations, doing cartoon voiceovers as well as comedy on stage.
I haven't got a Wickazian Wabbit's license.
He will play a pivotal role in Lori's life.
Alex is a key piece to a puzzle that will take investigators months to put together.
I'm Alex, and I'm gonna be Looney Tunes.
Tell me what your impressions of Alex were when you met him.
My impressions of Alex was that he was a little off and lacked social skills, or just maybe didn't really connect with people.
I think that's all.
What did he tell you about Lori's husband, Joseph Ryan, Tylee's dad?
He had told me that there had been some allegations of abuse, and that he kind of took it upon himself to protect Tylee and Colby, and that he had attempted to take Joe's life.
Alex got into it with Joe Ryan in a parking lot and assaulted Ryan with a taser in the heart.
Alex winds up serving time for aggravated assault. It's another failed marriage for Lori. Enter Charles Vallow, a man who will eventually become husband number 4.
It's interesting to note Lori's early marriages didn't last very long, but it didn't sour her on the institution of marriage either.
I don't know why Lori's been married so many times. I think she has always worn her heart on her sleeve. She thinks that she is trying to help people when she marries them.
Can Charles make Lori happy? Can anyone make this mother of 2 happy?
It's like the old adage, mama ain't happy, nobody's happy.
Lori has been betting on the wrong men year after year. And then finally in 2006, she gets married to Charles Vallow, husband number 4. They get married in Las Vegas.
Charles Vallow, to me, was the best of Lori's husbands. They had been dating, and we all liked him.
I felt like he was a great husband. I felt like he adored Lori, and that he would go out of his way to make her comfortable, to make her happy.
After the wedding, this couple bounces around for a little bit before finally settling in Arizona.
Charles and Lori came in, and I thought, wow, those are the beautiful people.
Lori Lori's protective brother, Alex Cox, also likes Charles.
And Charles and Alex were very good friends. They laughed over everything together. Charles loved Alex, and Alex loved Charles.
Charles was doing okay for himself professionally. He was a managing partner in a financial investment firm, and he was making $20,000 a month.
Money was very important to him, and he was very showy. The big cars, the big trips, the big houses, that was mainly Charles. Lori enjoyed those things, but to her, that wasn't as important as just having a happy family.
Happy family.
This is a family that blends Lori's daughter Tylee and their adopted son JJ under one roof.
Tylee is the dearest, dearest little girl.
You need someone to cuddle with, but you don't have a significant other? Worry no more.
She has tough exterior, but she's got a marshmallow heart.
How would you describe the relationship between Tylee and Lori?
Lori was who Tylee really loved, and I think she looked up to her mom.
Most everyone we speak with depict Lori as a loving, doting, caring mom who will do anything for her kids.
JJ is my biological grandson via my son, and Charles is my brother. Charles and Lori adopted JJ, and they let us maintain the grandparents' role.
We loved Lori. Now, I'll tell you that right now. I've told everybody.
She was a good mom.
She was a wonderful mom.
He was so fast. He was the fastest little kid I've ever seen.
She was a great mom with a
Yes.
special needs child who
Yes.
she took on as her own.
Yes.
After they started seriously dating, she talked to him about our religion, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And she's been a member her whole life, and we all were. He ended up joining our church.
What happens in this marriage is what happens in most marriages. There are good times and bad times, there are financial ups and downs, but for the better part of 14 years, the marriage really seemed to work until it began to unravel.
She started talking about this new group that she was a part of. She would bring it up more and more often, and I could see that she was becoming more involved with it, and it was kind of becoming more of the focal point in her life.
What she had mentioned was the name Chad Daybell. He's an author. He's a believer that the end of the world as we know it is coming soon. Daybell has written dozens of these post-apocalyptic, very dark books where he uses what he describes as fictional characters to describe real events, claiming that the future has been channeled through him. And this is the literature that Lori was reading.
So Lori had always been a fan of Chad's books, and so that's how I first heard about Chad from Lori. Was she would talk about this author that she was really interested in and really connected with his work.
She just looked up to him.
Right,
was
kind of like a
inspired
super
by
fan.
him, a
Yeah,
super
I
fan.
would describe her as a super fan.
Husband Charles doesn't find it so super. In fact, soon accusations are flying that Lori and Chad are more than just friends.
I know she did tell me one time that Charles was accusing her of having an affair. She said it like this. She said, he's accusing me of having an affair with Chad Daybell.
Affair or not, Lori is certainly embracing Chad's teachings, as does Lori's brother Alex Cox. They go on a recruiting trip to spread the word according to Chad.
How did she and Alex describe this other thing they were becoming a part of?
So what they basically said is that we are here to gather the 144,000, and you are one of them.
Did she explain what the 144,000 was?
I'm pretty familiar with Revelations, and so I knew what she was referring to. These are the people that will be here at the second coming. It was just too far out there for me. It wasn't something that connected with me on any level.
Is it fair to say that Lori had a fascination with death?
I would say that's pretty accurate. I think even before she started to exhibit changes in her personality, that was something that was always very interesting to her.
At any point when she's talking about all of this, are you thinking in your head, I need to distance myself from Lori?
I did feel that way.
The Vallows' marriage continues to spiral, only this time it's Lori throwing out the accusations.
So apparently when she discovered the evidence of this alleged affair, she canceled his return flight. He'd been away on a business trip. She and another friend took his truck that was waiting at the airport from the airport and hid it, and took all of his clothes and just threw them away.
She told you she took revenge on Charles.
She did.
Charles Vallow alleges his business bank account has been drained as well. And that's when cops get called in.
Why don't you come over here?
Police body camera video shows Charles basically telling police that his wife has lost her mind.
She took all the money out of her bank account today.
What did she say yesterday?
She said, "You're not Charles. I don't know who you are, what you did with Charles, but I can murder you now with my powers."
So she's speaking as a spiritual being. Is she on any medications?
No. She won't do medications.
Has she been to a doctor?
No, she won't go to the doctor because she's a translated being, and they would find out that she's translated. She cannot be killed. She cannot die.
And that's what she thinks?
Yes.
Lori tells you, I believe, that she is a translated being. Did she actually use that phrase with you?
She had told me that she was a being that had lived on several worlds.
Sounds like she's describing herself as a deity or godlike.
Exactly. It was very much like a self-deification, elevating herself above everybody else.
So the next morning, Charles called, real early in the morning, and I answered the phone, and he said, "Janice, Lori's crazy. She's gone crazy."
Charles gets a court order to have Lori committed for a mandatory psych evaluation at a mental health facility. But a few hours later, she's discharged.
Charles is desperately trying to get the Cox family to see that something is not right with Lori. When this situation doesn't improve, he takes his problems to an attorney.
You know, I've been a divorce attorney for 30 years, but I've never had anybody that came in that was this specific, that said, "I'm afraid I'm going to be murdered, and this is who's going to do it, and here's why it's going to happen."
Charles makes that same claim in his divorce filing and also reports it to police.
He told me that Lori told him that she was going to have him killed, that he was in the way, and that she had an angel that would dispose of his body after that took place. And Charles was very adamant with me that he wanted to make sure that I let everybody know that if he was killed,
Chandler Police Department,
that it was Lori who did it.
It wasn't that long ago that the Vallows were deeply in love. After a brief but failed attempt to reconcile, Charles now has two problems. Number one, Lori doesn't love him anymore, and number two, neither does brother Alex.
What is the emergency?
I shot my brother-in-law.
The reason Charles Vallow goes to the house that day, to his estranged wife's home, is to pick up his son JJ to take him to school. Now, Alex Cox was there supposedly to make sure this handoff went smoothly. It did not go smoothly.
Was he armed also, or just?
Yeah, he came at me with a bat.
Anyone been drinking or doing drugs or anything today, or no?
I don't know, but I've never seen him that enraged before.
Okay, what part of his body is injured?
In the chest.
Okay, is he awake and responsive or unconscious?
Unconscious.
The 911 operator instructs Alex Cox how to do CPR.
Just make sure you're still pressing down at least 2 inches into his chest, and it comes up with each compression. 1, 2, 3.
And you hear this heavy breathing on the phone.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Sorry, Jim, 97. Do you have the subject on the phone step out of the residence?
You know, no weapons?
No weapons on me.
All right, come on out this way.
Oddities. There are a few at this scene.
You have some ID on you, sir?
Yeah.
Alex Cox is supposedly performing CPR on a guy that has 2 bullet holes in his chest. And that is going to be an incredibly messy and bloody business. But when the police get there, when you look at the footage, he doesn't appear to have any blood on his body at all.
He was just yelling at me. He came at me with a bat.
Was he living here or visiting?
Alex Cox claims to have suffered a blow to the head from the bat swung by Charles, yet he declines medical attention.
Let me see your head. You got a laceration. You want me to call paramedics?
No, I'd really like some water, though.
Supposedly, Charles hit him in the head with a baseball bat. First of all, Charles played baseball his whole life. He was strong. If Charles would have hit somebody in the back, there'd be gray matter and blood everywhere.
I mean, look, in traumatic situations, everybody reacts differently. But here's this guy that just took a human life who's sitting on the curb, and Alex doesn't appear to be distraught at all. And he even starts talking about the weather and complaining about the heat to the police that respond to the scene.
That's hotter for you. That's layers.
The next oddity involves not who's in the house, but who isn't.
Chandler Police Department, anybody inside, make yourself known!
No, I think she's taking her son to school.
Alex says it's only been 5 minutes since the shooting, but he's already alone at the house, which means Lori and daughter Tylee, the only two other witnesses to this, have already left, which means they left almost immediately after the shooting, which is weird.
So, wife who lives here, her daughter, her son, they all leave.
I was a little bit surprised that they had left and come back.
The decision to prioritize taking JJ to school rather than wait for the police to come as your husband is dying on the floor becomes even more bizarre when they stop at Burger King to get JJ food.
Chicken fries and a Sprite, because that's what he ate every morning. Because that's the routine and that's what he likes. And she took him to school and then they came back.
Hi, who are you? Okay, just stand over there for just a second, guys.
Mother and daughter are also very composed when they arrive back at the scene.
Do you have a driver's license with you? I can just grab it.
There wasn't any huge outwardly signs of like emotional distress. There wasn't tears. There wasn't anything like that. They seemed pretty put together.
Hi, neighbor, sorry.
Lori and Tylee are taken to the police station to give their statements. Alex is driven separately to provide his.
No handles on the inside? Yeah, no, that's how those police cars are, you know?
When detectives are finally able to sit all involved down at the police station, this trio outlines the story of self-defense.
That morning, and that Charles came over and took JJ out to the car, ready to go to school.
According to Lori, this squabble begins over a cell phone. Charles gets outside and realizes that he's left his iPhone inside the house, so he goes back in to retrieve it.
Charles's cell phone was on the kitchen counter, so she had retrieved the phone, and that's where the argument ensued. She describes him as being extremely angry, never seeing him like that, and that she's now wanting to know what's on the phone that he doesn't want her to see.
Tylee came from the bedroom with a bat and basically circled around them and is standing next to Mom. Alex says that Charles ripped the bat out of her hand. He said that he saw Charles basically go forward towards Lori and Tylee, and that's when he grabbed him from behind and they basically pulled him back and they ended up on the ground. So after the altercation, he basically says he goes to his room where he gets his gun.
Lori explains that there's a tussle between the two of them, and Tylee describes that as well. Neither of them really remain in there. They both kind of evacuate out during kind of this physical exchange between Charles and Alex. Lori directs Tylee basically out because JJ's outside.
He tells Charles to drop the bat. Charles basically says, "What are you going to do?"
And he said Charles just kept coming with the bat.
Alex says he shot him in self-defense.
And he said, I didn't have any other choice. That's what he told me. I said, how are you feeling? He said, Mom, I feel terrible, but I'd do anything to protect Lori and Tylee.
Charles had never been violent with anybody, so you kind of start getting a bigger picture of this just doesn't feel right.
Both of us have driven people home after interviews, and this would be at the top of bizarre for me, the whole car ride.
The odd part about it was just the complete lack of emotion. It was a very nonchalant, Lori had a big smile on her face. A case like this isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. The case is just beginning.
In a word, detectives find all of this odd, but odd is not a felony.
Now, being weird and not making sense is going to make the investigation continue.
But they better hurry because Lori is off to Idaho to land husband number 5.
Charles knew his destiny.
This guy, his last name is Vallow.
Copy, several gunshot wounds.
He was able to see his own demise.
You lost your brother.
Yes. He and I were extremely close.
We don't know what JJ saw. We don't know what Tylee saw.
I am Tylee's aunt and Joseph Ryan's sister. As Tylee's advocate, I need to chase down the truth. I need to turn over every rock I can possibly find.
When we were finished with the search warrant and we left, that's the last contact that we've ever had with them.
Yeah.
They've never called, asked questions.
Charles Vallow told me that he had $1 million life insurance policy on his life and that Lori Vallow was the beneficiary.
The wife just showed up.
And when we have allegations here that Lori was directly saying that she was going to murder Charles, that's a problem. The next time I talked to Charles, he told me that he had changed the beneficiary to Kay Woodcock, his sister, because he trusted her to give the money to JJ.
The party's over.
Lori didn't know that he had removed her from the policy.
After the shooting of Charles, Lori did just, up and move to Idaho pretty quickly after that.
We know that the landlord asked her to move out by the end of August, and now she didn't have her meal ticket or the $1 million.
And they moved to the promised land of Rexburg, Idaho, in the company of Mr. Chad Daybell.
Rexburg has always been a strong, faith-built community, very trusting, where neighbors love each other. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is very large in this area.
And Rexburg is once again one of the safest communities in Idaho.
If Lori had designs on Chad, things are about to get really interesting when she moves to Rexburg, because Chad is married to someone else.
Facebook photos show Chad and Tammy as a happy couple.
Chad and Tammy moved here about 5 or 6 years ago with their family.
In his memoir, Living on the Edge of Heaven, Chad Daybell describes being called to Rexburg. He writes, "A voice said, moving to Rexburg will be a tremendous blessing on your children and your grandchildren."
What I remember of them is a perfect couple. Good mom, good dad, good kids.
Tammy is a real spitfire, though. She had a mind of her own, and she was not one that was easily walked on.
Chad Daybell and I served as missionaries for the LDS Church back in the late 80s. Chad was the most humble missionary that I ever knew.
Well, Lori and Chad have been known to attend LDS services. Chad has also written books and lectured on his own personal beliefs, which are distinct from LDS theology.
Chad was the author of these doomsday books that had a peculiar prophecy about the end of the world and how people should prepare for that.
His books are all about the end of times and dying. His visions deal with dying. When Chad lived in Springville, Utah, he was a grave digger.
Chad was the cemetery sexton before he resigned.
A few years ago, Chad wrote his autobiography, and it gives you a glimpse of the way this guy thinks and what he believes.
In his memoir, Chad Daybell writes, "I don't fictionalize any of the events portrayed. My torn veil allows information to be downloaded into my brain from the other side. The scenes I am shown are real events that will happen."
He was gathering people to Rexburg. They were moving there because Chad Daybell said, this is where you need to be.
We don't yet know the full size of this group, but what we do know is that at the very least, Lori Vallow and her family relocated to this area.
At first, everything in Idaho seemed to be going smoothly for Lori, Tylee, and JJ. JJ, already making new friends, is seen playing outside on a neighbor's doorbell camera.
They played every day almost until he said he was moving to his grandmother's.
There was 3 FaceTimes after Charles's murder, the last one being 35 seconds. He said a couple of things, and then you could see his eyes look up, and
he was looking at somebody.
He's looking at something else,
Not
and he
looking
goes,
directly.
"I gotta go, bye," and then boom, it was just that fast, was gone, and that's the last time we saw him
or heard from him.
Or heard.
You were in communication with police and investigators because you wanted to find JJ and Tylee.
Yes. In September, I believe we learned that they moved to Idaho, but I still didn't have an apartment number. She and Chad together, they just feed off of each other.
They were actively preparing for the end that was inevitably coming very soon.
And what was she doing, according to her, to prepare for that?
Storing medical supplies, storing food, water, all the things that you would need if you weren't able to access them for whatever reason.
So she planned on surviving the end of the world?
Yes, because she was one of the 144,000.
Their mission right now is to gather the 144,000 that will be left here on Earth after the doomsday being July 2020.
Do I see him as drawing people to him? Yes. Chad's message is what draws people to him, that Jesus is coming again and that we need to prepare.
I'm an author and podcaster. Chad Daybell published my first 5 books. Chad Daybell did try to say that we'd been married before. He claimed he was Methuselah and that I was one of 7 of Methuselah's wives. And he named some other women.
Did she ever mention that her kids were among the 144,000?
She never said one way or another about the kids.
Within 7 days of Lori moving to Rexburg, she takes a trip to Yellowstone Park with Tylee, JJ, and her brother Alex. Authorities say no one ever saw Tylee again after that point, after that very last photo with Alex and JJ.
When I found out about Yellowstone, what did Lori take JJ one direction and Uncle Alex take Tylee another? I don't know. I don't know what happened.
Weeks later, yet another one of Lori's family members has a bizarre run-in down in Arizona.
911, where's your emergency?
Someone just shot my window.
Lori's bizarre saga is a lot for any family to deal with. Then add in brother Alex's curious connection to all this, and you've got a lot of drama, especially when police are called in to investigate a 911 call involving yet another family member.
Where's your emergency?
Someone just shot my window.
Okay, someone shot at your vehicle?
Yeah, and it hit my window, shattered my driver's side window. Sorry,
Okay.
I'm a little out of breath. They just...
And what is your name?
My name's Brandon Boudreau.
Brandon Boudreau was married to Lori's niece Melanie when that shot rang out.
Private Eye, Rich Robertson, is hired to help sort out the mystery.
Brandon called me and seemed to be kind of in a panic. He was obviously agitated, and he just started spewing out all this information about being the target of a shooting and just a crazy story. I wasn't sure what to make of it. Brandon told me that as he pulled up near his house toward the driveway, he recognized the Jeep that was sitting in the street with Texas license plates, and he thought he recognized that to be the Jeep that Charles Vallow had.
Charles Vallow did indeed own a Jeep Wrangler that was registered down in Texas, but dead men don't drive. So who was inside the Jeep?
As he approached, he saw what he believed was Alex Cox reach out the back of that Jeep, the window where the tire had been removed, and shot at his car.
Alex Cox, as in Lori's brother, a man who's already shot one, assaulted another. Could this guy be a drive-by shooter as well?
It struck the frame on the window on the driver's side just over his head. As soon as that hit his car, he just accelerated and got past the Jeep to try to get away from it.
Alex just is straight up and admits to anything. He's just a man of truth. And I remember having that uncomfortable, question that I go to him with, did you take a shot at Brandon? And he said no. He joked about it. He's a comedian, and he said, Melanie, me in a recognizable car with, right across the street, and I'm a great shot. It didn't add up.
One thing Alex was not was a liar. Alex was very honest, and Alex would always say, if you called him on something or asked him if he did something, he immediately owned up to everything he did wrong.
Police say there's no denying that a bullet was in fact lodged in Brandon's vehicle. But why would anyone want to kill him? In court filings, Brandon says he can think of a million reasons.
Brandon believed that if there was a motive to kill him, it would have been for $1 million life insurance policy that he had, which Melanie would have been the beneficiary.
It's just not true. It's just a fight of trying to make me look bad and accuse me of things I haven't done.
Police haven't announced one way or the other who was the shooter that night. And Melanie denies having anything to do with the shooting and has not been charged.
Brandon knows me and knows I wouldn't do that.
It did start out for me as a very specific kind of assignment to find two people and a vehicle. And then realized what I was seeing was this small group of people in Arizona start moving to Idaho.
And in Idaho, there will be another spouse on the wrong end of a gun. And a fateful call between Lori and Chad.
Glad you called. Yeah.